What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson, joined today for our rankings party by two super friends, the other two super friends. I keep forgetting Sean Wagner-McGuff. Remember that guy?
Who?
What?
Who? Ryan Wilson and John Breech, along with the purveyor of the power rankings, the penultimate person. I don't know. I was trying to go with the P thing, like before you cross. I don't know. You feel like you're the second to last boss before you get to whatever that the river that you cross.
What the hell are you talking about?
Hell. I was talking about hell. Actually, I was talking about hell. You're like the guardian of the river hell. Pete Prisco, what's up, buddy?
I'm in hell. I'm the devil. Never forget that. I am the devil.
Weird. I thought you were going to make a I'm in hell because I'm on this podcast joke, but whatever works for.
No, this is fun. I keep you all in line 1 day a week. I make sure that you don't get caught up in 3-week hoopla like everybody else in the NFL does.
Interesting. The River Styx. Thank you, Seven Stem. That's what I was looking for. Pete stands in front of the River Styx. He's the penultimate guardian of the River Styx before you cross to see Beelzebub. Anywho, that's some old Greek mythology for you, Pete. I'm sure that you forgotten about that since the last time you were there at the River Styx. If you're waiting on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe while you're at it, listening to any of the various podcast platforms. Hit us with a 5-star review. Go back in the feed one episode. You got Katie Mox, myself, Emery Hunt, and Prop Stars looking at early odds for week 4. A tricky week 4. We got some good info, though, some trends, some leans that you want to check out. Today, we're going to cover the AFC South Wild Week, run through Pete's post-week 3 power rankings, and then talk about some coaches on the hot seat with a special guest. But first, Pete, do you know that this is like the ultimate Pete game? Jaguars, Falcons in London. It's your favorite city on planet Earth. Your two favorite teams. You love London. I know you love London. Isn't that where the River Styx is too?
I've never been and I have no desire to go.
Have you ever left America?
Yeah, I go to the Caribbean all the time.
Okay.
Pete is anti-London. Why wouldn't you want to go to London? They have Big Ben, the Tower Bridge, all the history.
He still holds a grudge from 1776.
No, I just have no desire to. I have no desire to go there. When I go to Europe, I go to Italy, and then I want to go to Greece. I wouldn't mind going to a couple other places, but I don't want to go to England.
Did you know, Pete? Now I know. Look, London, Jaguars, Falcons. Those are like two of your longtime homeristic favorite teams. My collar's inside out. Did you know that this game will be broadcast on ESPN Plus exclusively? And then at the same time, you can also watch on Disney Plus a live Toy Story version of the game. How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10 for that?
I won't be watching the Toy Story one.
Okay.
And you know what? Even when I was a kid, I wouldn't have watched the Toy Story one. They wouldn't. I would have watched the.
Pete, give us a 15-second pitch on your children's book idea with Chip.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not going into shit.
All right. How about instead
I can tell you this though, Ryan. Chip ain't watching the Toy Story version of it.
No, he ain't.
You don't want to hear about Pete's children's book. Instead, what we don't want to hear, Pete, is your ranking of your top 3 Toy Story characters.
Buzz Lightyear, is he one?
That's one.
You know this. You're a huge fan. Go ahead.
If you is
what's his
something? He's one of them. I don't know.
SpongeBob?
I have no idea. I don't have kids. I don't know. Why the hell would I know what Toy Story?
What is Buzz Lightyear's tagline? What is his signature phrase?
I have no idea.
To infinity.
Am I supposed to? As a 62-year-old man who has no children, why in the hell would I know anything about Toy Story?
If you'd ever been to London, you would know all these answers, Pete. That's the key here.
And by the way, as Breech can attest, if you have cats, you're always showing cats Toy Story, so you would just get it by osmosis.
What do you think about Slinky Dog?
I have no idea what that is. Don't care.
Okay. Wilson.
If I was a kid at 9, I wouldn't watch it.
I don't think I watched Toy Story 4 in the theaters with Robbie, and I got a little choked up. It's pretty.
You watched Toy Story when I was a kid. I probably would have preferred to watch Saw 1, 2, 3, and 4 to learn how to be a serial killer. I'm kidding.
He's not kidding.
He is not kidding. Breech. If anyone knows about serial killing and being serious about it, John Breech.
That sounds like the starter pack.
That's
And
day
believe
one
me,
of the course.
I've read every book on every single serial killer out there. It's amazing.
Stu, rightfully skeptical about Pete claiming he's 62. Pete, would you, Wilson, Breech, you guys have power rankings
Stu,
for?
I look older than 62. Bring it on, buddy.
There it is.
I think you have to go to London to fight Stu. I'm pretty sure he does not live in.
I'm not going to
America.
London. I don't care. I'm not going to London. I don't like fish and chips, so I'm not going.
Oh,
Not a requirement to go to London. Wilson or Breech, do you have any power rankings of Toy Story characters you'd like to give out?
Breech, you're probably closer to this than me. My kids are older, so I haven't seen it in a while. I mean, the old standard. I like Woody. I like Tom Hanks. But what do you have?
I think Lotso Bear was the best villain. I like Ken and Barbie. They're pretty funny.
Yeah.
They're in the
Have their
Toy
own
Story
show.
movies. And Buzz Lightyear's a classic, so I'll go with him too.
I'm a big Slinky Dog fan.
Not surprised.
Slinky Dinky Doo. There's a cool Slinky Dog ride at Disney World or Disneyland World.
You guys want to get all over me for something else? I've never seen a Star Wars movie, so you got that going
What?
for you.
Oh my God! Next week we're ranking Star Wars characters.
I do know some of those characters. I just never sat down and watched the movies.
Pete, for lunch today, I had Disney World is the one in Florida, I believe. That's where the Toy Story stuff is. That's where I've been to that one. I've never been to Disneyland is California. I think I've never been to that one.
I've driven by Disneyland. I've been to Disney World, and I would.
You've been to Disney World?
Yeah, my wife likes it, so we go. When we were kids, we went too. My parents took us. You're a big carnival guy, right? Like you love By the way, I actually rode "It's a Small World" at the World's Fair in New York in 1964. I think that's when
and he says he's 62. You were 40 when you rode that ride. So
no, I
do
wasn't.
the math there.
You were pretty young then, according to the math.
I was 4. I remember though. I remember it.
Wait, you were. Oh yeah, that's right. Your birthday's coming up soon, isn't it?
World's Fair was right next to what became where Shea Stadium was. You can still see the globe there. The globe is still there.
Yeah.
Have you read the serial killer book about the World's Fair?
No, I haven't read that one.
Devil in the White City. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's like half fiction, half reality. It's really Devil in the White
Have you read
City.
the one that was about the serial killer who was drafted by the Green Bay Packers?
Who's that?
Eric Larson, not the Larson.
Randall Woodfield III.
Oh, that's right. You told me
making
the
a joke.
story. Yeah.
He's my buddy. He called me once on the phone.
Oh, that guy. Okay. Yeah.
1974 NFL draft, 428th overall pick.
Nice.
Randall. Yep.
Otherwise known as the I-5 killer.
I was going to tell you about my lunch, but I think we've done too much nonsense off the top.
It's time to move on.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if Pete had seen the viral feta egg sandwich thing that you can do online. It's pretty cool on Instagram.
What?
It's going big. It's great. You'd love it, Pete. Right up your alley.
Feta. What was it?
You toss feta in a pan. You crack an egg over it, and then you put that onto a tortilla with some avocado, and the runny egg becomes the sauce. It's fantastic. Very healthy. Very quick too. I did it over 2 English
Never
muffins
eaten an
once.
egg in my life either. If you got that going for you.
That's not true.
That is true.
You've never
100% true.
eaten an egg in your life?
Well, okay. Let me say voluntarily eat an egg because when I was a kid,
so
I think my mom
forced you to eat an egg. That's even worse.
He was held
when I
hostage.
was a kid, when I was a little kid, my mom tried to shove the egg into my mouth and I didn't like it. So from there on out, I never ate it again.
Your mom tried to make you eat an egg when you were a young boy.
Yep.
And you have never eaten an egg since then?
Since, never. Like if it shows up, like somehow, some way, like some people put eggs in a potato salad. I might have tasted like the rubbery white part of it in a potato salad, but other than that, no. No
So you eat
scrambled eggs,
potato
no
salad,
hard,
but you won't
no
eat an egg.
hard-boiled eggs, nothing. Nope.
What about egg salad?
Ugh.
Pete, I'm going to give you the card of my therapist so you can talk all of this out because this egg stuff, not seeing Star Wars, wanting to watch Saw 2 at the age of 9.
Yeah.
So you've been to Disney. You've been to Disney World. You've been to Disney World more times than you've eaten eggs.
Correct.
That is something
And that means,
weird.
That means that for me, that means I've been to hell more than I've eaten the eggs because I hate that place.
Okay, that's moving along. Unfortunately, we're owned by Paramount, so I don't think we have to worry about that too much. If this were an ESPN show, we'd be completely screwed right now. But let's get through the toy talk and get into the real, actual power rankings. And we start in your top 5 because, frankly, Pete, you'd think anytime the Dolphins come out and hang a 70 burger, 70 points. You were the only person, you're the only person remotely alive on this podcast. Like I wasn't even, my parents were like 16 when this happened. Like my parents were 16 the last time somebody scored 70 points in an NFL game, and you ranked the Dolphins 4th behind the Chiefs, who have lost the game, behind the Eagles, who were fine and undefeated, behind the 49ers. Is this a bias, perhaps, because of a tweet from this past offseason? At Prisco CBS, Dolphins with healthy Tua still 5th or 6th team in the conference and second best in the state to Jacksonville. Defend yourself, Prisco.
It's 3 games. You guys are just like everybody else in this league. 3 games, 3 games, 3 games. If I'm not mistaken, didn't the 49ers lose 2 of their first 3 last year, if I'm not mistaken? And then they rallied to get 3 games. That's all
because they got Brock Purdy.
Games.
Joe Montana
Purdy. 3
Purdy.
games, though. Okay, they scored 70. What if they scored 40? Would you still feel the same way? No. The game got out of hand. The Broncos quit. It was a hell of a performance. The Dolphins are playing great football. They're fast as hell. They're fun to watch. Tua is the MVP right now. But it's 3 games. And if they played the Chiefs on a neutral site, who you picking?
What's the line?
Picking the game to win the game. Pick it. Say call pick them, just like you normally would.
I'll take the Dolphins just for
I pick the Dolphins right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
how about 49ers and Dolphins?
I'm taking the Dolphins over anyone right now.
I'm taking the Niners. I would take the Dolphins over the Eagles, though.
You're the overreaction king of all time, Ryan. I mean, guy go play the college quarterback, throws for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns, and you put him number 1 ahead of Caleb Williams. I mean, come on.
What?
You're the overreaction.
It happens every week.
You put Bo Nix ahead of Caleb Williams?
You got to listen to the podcast.
Why would I listen to your podcast? You don't listen to mine. Except when you're on, and then you're not even really
on the podcast and not listening to it. So you
that's what I'm saying.
but the whole league, every fan and every media member overreacts to 3 games, and the Dolphins are fun.
Let me ask you this, because Breech mentioned this on Sunday night, and Breech, you can actually mention it. What did Tua do in the last 3 games last year? The first 3 games last year?
Oh, first 3 games they went 3-0, and the stats were identical: completions, attempts, touchdown passes, interceptions, all the exact same this year,
right,
as they were last year.
So it's not just a 3-game sample.
Then we were talking about how great he was, and he went to San Francisco for the 3-game start of the 3-game road trip, played poorly there, played terrible against the Chargers, and then Buffalo wasn't great either. So when you look at it, yeah, he's off to a great start, and he is the MVP right now. I have a vote. If I had to vote right now, I'd give it to Tua.
Well, that to me is a concession that you were wrong initially, so I take your apology.
It's a long season. What am I wrong about? I'd still take Justin Herbert over Tua.
Does he have fire in the belly?
Who knows? He's got a bunch of speedy merchants around him. Makes it easy on him.
Did you say speedy
The
merchants?
biggest surprise. The biggest.
What are they selling? Are they selling their wares in a marketplace? Like
speed merchants. You know, they call them speed merchants.
Love it.
The thing about the biggest surprise about the Miami Dolphins is how well the offensive line is playing.
They're playing great. That's right.
Yeah.
And Tehran was back this week, I believe, right?
Yes, he was, and he played very well. And Mike McDaniel's a genius when it comes to calling plays. And they have so much speed that it makes it easy to call plays. They scare the daylights out of people. So, I mean, when you look at it, yeah, it's a great start. Watch out this week in Buffalo.
Could be a bad week for you next week, Pete, if things don't go the way you want them to.
You have the Bills. Right. You have the Bills at 5. I feel like Dolphins 4, Bills 5 is kind of like you sort of saying I'm picking the Bills to win and cover the 3 points. They're favored by 2.5 or 3, whatever it is.
I think they win. I think they win this week. And I think Buffalo's defense has improved in large part because Sean McDermott's calling the defenses. They were too vanilla for so many years. And now he saw that, realized, hey, look, I got to get back to my roots a little bit. And they're much more aggressive. And they had 9 sacks last week. They get after the quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, they did have 9 sacks. There's no taking that away. But you talk about the Denver Broncos giving up. It looked like the Commanders had no idea they were playing football for much of that game. But
no, they didn't. They played poorly too. But still, 9 sacks is 9 sacks. That's impressive.
Right. It
was against the team who was 2-0 going into the week. The Dolphins beat on a team that everybody already thought was bad and was 0-2 and gave up in the second quarter.
Yep.
All right, let's go elsewhere in the state of Florida. The Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that got as high as 5 at one point in these power rankings.
Preseason Super Bowl pick from the AFC.
It is early, guys.
3 weeks.
The Jaguars are down to number 20 Here's your purple pros you put in your blurb. What was that against the Texans? Or were they simply overrated by many, including me? They sure don't look like a playoff team. Down 10 spots, 1-2. What's going on? Because look, AFC South wide open now. Feel like any of those teams could win it. Even the Texans, even the Titans, and they've looked real bad at points in time. Colts have looked pretty good. Jags have looked like trash. Is this simply a play calling problem, Pete?
Well, it's not just a play calling problem, but the interior of the offensive line is bad right now, particularly the left guard. He's terrible. Ben Barch is spinning top of all time right now. And, they pay Brandon Sheriff a bunch of money. And he's not playing well. And so they're calling plays for that reason. In other words, a lot of, horizontal stuff, nothing down the field. And Trevor Lawrence is sped up. And when he's sped up, he'll take a little slant pass when he can have a big shot down the field. The other thing is Ridley, 2 drops, 1 was a touchdown. Here's another thing. Think about this. They had receivers jump off sides, false starts 3 times, twice by Ridley. Have you ever seen that before? Oh, they tell receivers, look at the ball, look inside. And it's amazing to me. They're sloppy. And I think Doug Peterson called them out this week. He said they're reading their press clippings, probably what I wrote about them mostly. But I think when you look at it, that's a problem. And then here's the other thing. The Texans had 4 backup offensive linemen starting on Sunday. You know how many sacks Jacksonville had? None. 0. Trayvon Walker, the projection isn't working. He should be blown up to another 15, 20 pounds and put his hand on the ground because he would be a much better player that way. He's not an elite edge rusher. And it doesn't help him that Hutchinson's one of the league leaders.
Trent Baalke's beef with Jim Harbaugh coming back to bite the Jaguars in the ass right now because they would have taken Aiden Hutchinson if he didn't hate Jim Harbaugh.
Well,
and tiny arms.
But Trent likes to pick, body types and projects and everything else, and he can't help himself by picking a linebacker every 2 rounds in every draft. It's ridiculous. And they thought those guys were going to grow up. They thought Trayvon Walker would take a step forward. They thought Devin Lloyd would take a step forward. They thought, a bunch of other guys would improve, and they haven't. And so they're not good right now. And you know what? When he says that, he's calling them out for that exact reason. Here's the other thing. One last thing about the offense. The Texans played zone the entire time. Those receivers ran into the man every single time instead of sitting down in the zone. That creates problems. And so that tells me they're not putting the work in.
So a couple things. Is this just a function of the Jaguars for some inexplicable reason not being able to beat the Texans because they struggle against the Texans? Or, as Brinson mentioned, and Doug Peterson actually refuted the fact that he took over play calling from Press Taylor at halftime. Is this a situation where Press is overwhelmed? Doug needs to take over? Because it ain't like these are Matt Canada and Luke Getsy. These guys should know how to coordinate up at offense.
Well, they also lost Jim Bob Cooter. Remember, he left. And Jim Bob Cooter was the passing game coordinator. And Jim Bob Cooter is supposedly a really good coach. So I think that's hurt them as well.
You really wanted to say Jim Bob Cooter 3 times there, didn't you? Huh?
It's a bunch of different reasons, but it's not very good right now. But having said all that, they play in a garbage division. So you get hot at the right time, you're going to win the division.
They lost to the worst team in that division by a ton. They got their asses whooped.
Well, did you see the kickoff return by the fullback? I mean, how the hell does that happen? I mean, first off, why are you mortar kicking it? And that's the first problem. Kick it out of the damn end zone and give him the ball at the 25. I watched that play on tape. There wasn't a Jaguar player across the 30 by the time he was fielding it at the 10.
I think that guy, Andrew Beck, ended up hitting 20 miles an hour according to Next Gen Stat. And Breech, actually, I wanted to ask you on something.
I think it was like 20.874 or something like that.
Why would you make that kick in that situation? What's the upside to doing that?
None. I'm assuming they thought, hey, look, if an up back ends up with it, there's no way that guy's going to return it for a touchdown because your up backs aren't as fast as your deep return guys. So I think Jacksonville just outsmarted themselves.
Right. Breech, when you watch the tape, usually you want to try and pin them in. You put it up high and you try and pin them in. I watched it. He fielded it. If he had fielded it cleanly, it was on the 10. There wasn't a Jacksonville player across the 30 when he was fielding it. So let's just say, for the sake of the argument, they met at the 20 and he ended up at the 22. For the sake of 3 yards, you're risking that? Just kick the damn ball out of the end zone. It made no sense. But there were a lot of stupid coaching decisions this week.
Who was it who did the play-by-play in the locker room afterwards? He's like, and I was like, oh! Have you seen that? I think it was on. I saw it on one of our Instagram clips, but it's like one of the Texans players is like, you know what? You had to be there. You had to see it. All right, moving along. I wasn't going to do a good job explaining that. The books have the Jags as a 3-point favorite at home against the Falcons in London, as we mentioned. They haven't won
in London in last three games there. So it's been, I think, 2019, because they didn't play in 20 during the COVID year, but I think so. It's 3-19. Haven't won there. Let's
say that they win. I don't think they'll shut down the Falcons because the Jaguars defense isn't very good. Let's say that they win 24-17. And it's kind of comfortable, and the Falcons have a last-second garbage touchdown. How high can the Falcons? What happens to the Jaguars Falcons in that scenario?
Well, I don't mean, it just depends on what happens in front of them, but they'll move up a little bit. But then the next week they get Buffalo.
But in London.
In London. I mean, it's in London. It's at the Tottenham or whatever that is. In
Tottenham.
What? Jacksonville gets a huge travel advantage because they get to stay in London for a week. And Buffalo has to travel.
Spur?
Whatever it is, I don't know.
Victor Wembanyama's playing for the Hotspurs. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they
if you really want to offend soccer,
they're moving
soccer
resorts.
fans.
Can you believe that? They're staying in a resort, practicing at it. Then after the game on Sunday, they're moving to another resort.
That's what I would do. Stay in as many resorts as possible.
Enjoy I think that's going to be a tough game for them. And then the next week, that's a big break for them. By the way, you get Buffalo in there, then rather than playing them up at their home place. So that's a home game for Buffalo.
That's right. That's also probably why they have to move resorts, I would think. Wilson, you mentioned, or did you mention Calvin Ridley's problems?
No, Prisco did. Breech, you can go ahead. Yeah, you can get in your 2 cents if you have something.
Actually, no, you know what, Breech, you're fine. Time to take a break. When we come back, we have to get some teams that are come back from the dead. Much like Pete. We thought Pete's career was toast. Came back from the dead, salvaged it.
What are you talking about?
Just kidding, Pete. We'll talk about some teams who looked like they were toast and through 3 weeks. They are back and maybe back in the mix. We'll tell you who they are, who's shooting up the rankings. Coming up next.
The Scudetto, where the soul of Italy meets the pinnacle of calcio. Catch Serie A on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount+.
Back to the Pick Six podcast. Ryan Wilson, John Breech, Pete Prisco, joined by me, Will Brinson. We got some bottom feeders. The Arizona Cardinals and the Houston Texans. Well, actually, no, we'll talk about the Cardinals first. We'll talk about the Texans first. They're up to 12 spots to number 19. Pete, they're ahead of the Jaguars after beating your Jaguars.
Mine.
Is this team better than you thought? Is CJ Stroud the best rookie quarterback?
Right now, CJ Stroud is the best rookie quarterback. There's no doubt about that. He's actually looks like a polished passer. He's impressive. And here's what they do. They play tough and fast and violently. I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Ward. I love Jimmy Ward when he came into the league. He was the captain of my Better Than team. You put the tape on last week against Jacksonville. He's flying all over the field.
That's what Jimmy Ward was the one celebrating the Beck kick return, talking about it.
Well, yeah, Jimmy Ward's a good football player. And they don't have a ton of talent, but you can see, and a lot of it was hurt. You know, they didn't have Stingley and Petrie and Tavir Thomas. I mean, they didn't have 3 guys in the secondary. But you could see they play hard, and D'Amico Ryans has that team moving in the right direction. They're loaded with draft picks. They have their quarterback. They're moving in the right direction. I like where they're headed.
I agree. CJ is easily the best quarterback among the rookies. Anthony Richardson was hurt. Bryce was hurt. And, you know, Bryce has had some struggles with the offensive line. And also in Bryce's defense, because I have to defend Bryce, Pete, those guys are not getting open for him. But that said, it ain't like CJ's playing with the Miami Dolphins offense. He has been absolutely dealing. He made 2 throws in that game on Sunday that were dropped, that were 2 of the best throws I saw all week by anyone. He threw that little glance to Nico in the middle of the field, and he threw with so much anticipation. I think it scared Nico that the ball got on him so fast. And then Dalton Schultz should have cut that touchdown in the end zone at the front pylon that he let go.
Yeah, but the ball he threw to Tank Dell was over the wrong shoulder, and Dell made a good play on it.
Tank Dell made a fantastic, but the guy was so open. I mean, he just threw an arm punt and let him run underneath it.
Tank Dell, who I love, by the way, and Rick Spielman and yourself, you didn't really like him that much.
Stop it. I got the receipts, Pete. But I agree.
You got to get those receipts out. But I mean, I think C.J. Stroud, I'll be first one to sit here and say he looks 10 times better than I expected him to look this early in the season.
Oh, yeah, of course. I agree with that.
It will be interesting to see what he does against Ryan's Steelers, though, because you look at he's piling up passing yards, at least in the first 2 weeks. Not really in garbage time, but where his team was trailing with double-digit losses to the Ravens and Colts. But he did look really good against Jacksonville, and as Ryan said, hit on a couple big-time throws that you'd always expect to see from a rookie. But so we're talking about 2 of these 3 games where you're piling up the yards. So it will be very interesting to see how he handles the Steelers defense. And I feel like Mike Tomlin has a pretty good track record against rookie quarterbacks. Wilson, no?
I think Dick LeBeau does. Dick LeBeau does, and Matt Canada is the ultimate kryptonite. By the way, Matt Canada came out and Tomlin came out and refuted that report that Canada had been given more control in the offense.
Well, but I'm talking about the Steelers defense.
How much more control in the offense are you having if you're the offensive coordinator? I mean, it makes no sense.
I know. But to Breech's point, yes, Tomlin has had a pretty good track record. I think some of that, and maybe BMAC, that's a question for him. A lot of that maybe has to do with Dick LeBeau. I just don't trust this Steelers team as currently constituted. That's just maybe me being a fan.
You don't like Pickett.
I would like him to play better. I would love to
He played well the other day.
Play better.
He played well.
You don't like Canada.
Yeah. Ryan, who are you picking to win this Texans-Steelers game? Just out of curiosity.
What's the line? Let's start there. Do you know?
You're the point spread expert.
-3.5, -4. Where's the game?
Texans.
It's in Houston.
The line on that game is
-3.5 Pittsburgh if it's in Houston.
It's in Houston.
I'll take the Texans at -3.5.
It's Pittsburgh -3 at Houston.
I don't think that if the offensive line doesn't get back a couple guys, then I think that's going to be a problem against that pass rush. I think they'll overwhelm.
That's true. You could be right.
And Stroud had a scramble the other day for 15 yards, I think, which surprised me. But that might be a problem for him this week. This might be the week that a good defense, a dominant defense, gets after him, and he looks like a rookie quarterback.
He looked really calm in the pocket. I mean, to your point, they're not playing TJ Watt last weekend, but I was surprised. There were some people in his face, and he didn't panic. We see sometimes.
No, he's been impressive. I mean, you can't take it away from him.
By the way, just worth noting that the odds for offensive rookie of the year, CJ Stroud now +450, tied with Anthony Richardson, behind Bijan Robinson at 3-1, Puka Nacua 7-1, Devin Achane jumped up to 10-1. Along with Zay Flowers. You could get some Bryce Young at 40-1 right now.
Don't waste your money.
Yeah, everybody's set it on fire.
Is he? Are you giving up on him, Ryan?
Oh, but he's not going to win it. I mean, Bijan.
Are you not as high on him now that you've seen him play in the NFL as you were before?
No, I'm very high on him. I will not say a bad. You said it 2 weeks ago. I will never say a bad word about Bryce, and I will continue. He played.
You won't. You're stubborn.
Fine. He's doing fine.
He's hurt. The offensive line's been bad. They don't have any weapons.
Doing fine behind Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
He's no Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton played better, but I'd still play Bryce Young.
Well, I mean, Andy Dalton threw the ball 50. His arm is killing him. He can't play anymore.
But I'd still play Bryce Young, no matter what it is. You have to play Bryce Young.
Well,
I'm just saying Bryce Young could use like the time away when he's dealing with the injury. He could come back, play well, and like 40-1 is pretty good odds for a quarterback to win Rookie of the Year. Like, you don't have to win football games to win Rookie of the Year as a quarterback. Anthony Richardson can't stay on the field. Maybe CJ Stroud struggles for a little bit. We'll see. Just saying. I throw it out there. The Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals, maybe getting Kyler Murray back soon. They jump up 6 spots from DFL to number 26 overall after whooping up on the Cowboys. 3 pretty good performances from the Cardinals.
And I think they hang around this week too, Will.
Do you feel bad for leaving them in last after they tried hard for 2 weeks? Is that why you send them up this freaking high?
I mean, I give them credit. They dominated that game the other day. They pushed the Cowboys around. They ran the ball. I mean, would they run for over 200 yards? Hey, when Kyle Murray comes back, do they want to keep Josh Dobbs in the lineup?
Serious? I mean, not that crazy.
No, you don't. But he's played well. I mean, he's done a good job of running that thing.
Let me ask you this.
They're another team that plays. They got a bunch of guys that nobody knows, like Dennis Gardeck, and they play hard, and tough, and physical, and they get after it. I mean,
nasty. What if, and I said this on the podcast the other day with these two, Josh Dobbs plays within the Drew Petzing's offense. What if Kyler comes back and is playing hero ball? What are you doing then?
I mean, you got to play him.
Okay.
You got to play Kyler Murray. You got to find out at least the rest of the year what he is. I mean, coming back off the knee injury, you got to see what he is. Is he different? Does he not run as much?
Let's rephrase the question real quick, Pete. The Cardinals are 1-3. If they win their next 2 games against the 49ers and Bengals, are you still putting Kyler Murray back in, or are you sticking with Josh Dobbs?
Well, do they win in a defensive, or do they put up big offensive numbers? Does Josh Dobbs throw for 330 in each game and 3 touchdowns? I mean, you got to put it. Well, if he throws for
224 yards and 1 touchdown in both games.
No, you play Murray.
Gosh, come on, Pete.
You play Murray. He's their guy.
I know, but you can make the case that like Kyler shouldn't even be back to like week 8 anyway.
Well,
like, from a health standpoint,
that's a whole nother issue. I mean, are you rushing? Is he
now? If you
lose,
let's say you lose the next 2 games, and you're then you'd be 1-4. Do you play Kyler Murray? Because if the Texans lose the Texans lose the next 2, and the Cardinals lose the next 2, you're like hurtling towards Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Which is
it's clear that Jonathan Gannon is going to tank. We tried to talk him into tanking in the preseason, and he wasn't buying it. That team is playing pretty hard.
Yeah, no,
they're playing pretty hard.
I don't think they're going to tank. I'm just saying, like,
they're not tanking. You play to win.
I don't think a coaching staff and a team will tank. I just think that it's possible that a front office will decide we're not playing Kyler because if he gets hurt and can't pass a physical, then we are really screwed, and we want to get Caleb Williams.
If you got to find out what you have in Kyler Murray. What if Kyler Murray comes back and he's actually a better player and he's become a better quarterback?
And you still draft Caleb Williams first overall.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably not going to have the first pick.
They may not.
Not to keep playing like this.
Do the Bears draft Caleb Williams if they have the first pick?
Yes.
Well, the Bears. You know what's interesting? I saw Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports wrote about this. So this is pretty wild. There are 4 0-3 teams in the NFL right now, right? All 4 of them play each other this week. The Bears and the Broncos are both 0-3 and they play each other. And the Panthers and the Vikings are both 0-3 and they play each other. If you follow the odds there, the Bears will possess the top 2 picks in the NFL draft coming out of this weekend because they have the Panthers first round pick from the Bryce Young deal, which means that, like, dude, Chicago, I mean, roll the tank out and go get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. And all of a sudden, or maybe 2 offensive linemen. I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm not drafting Marvin Harrison if I have all those other. Their defense is awful. You got to find a defensive player.
Well, you're the one who said Justin Fields might win MVP this year, but sure.
No, I didn't say he would win MVP. I thought he would be better, but it doesn't help that they have one of the worst staffs ever. The way they use the guy, they don't even use him like he should be used. And here's another thing: they never let him throw to the middle of the field. That means they don't even have plays designed in there, or they don't trust him at all because everything is to the sideline.
It's a hot mess.
It really is. It's a bad. So, okay, who's making those decisions? Is Poles making those decisions? Or are they firing the head coach? Or are they getting rid of the offensive coordinator? Are they getting rid of Justin Fields? I mean, there's a lot of decisions to be made. There's still a lot of football to be played, but it doesn't look good.
No, sure doesn't. You know who'd be a really good coach for Justin Fields? Shane Steichen.
Andy Reid.
Yes, Andy Reid as well. Shane Steichen's got the Colts up 10 spots from 24 all the way to 14. They're the only team in the AFC South in the top half of the league on your power rankings. Pete, are the Colts legitimately good, or is the AFC South just a big hot pile of, what do you call it, Wilson?
Doo-doo.
Dog doo-doo?
Yeah, it's a big hot pile of doo-doo right now. That's what it is. I mean, Jacksonville beat them in week 1 and scored 31 points. They haven't scored on anybody since. So, I mean, I worry about the Colts defensively a little bit. I still think there's some problems there, although Lamar Jackson made him look really good throwing the football last week. I think, what are they going to do when Richardson's back? Are they better offense when he plays? I think they are, but people love Gardner Minshew. I don't know why, but
he's reading the rundown, Breech.
Go Gardner.
What are you saying?
That's my boy.
You love Gardner Minshew?
Pete has not read the rundown. I can assure you that.
I haven't read the rundown.
I can promise you Pete's not stealing your point about Minshew versus Richardson from the rundown. Breech wants to know, should they play Richardson or should they keep playing Minshew?
Are you serious?
I said Breech wants to know, not me.
You're winning games. You're winning games, Pete. Learn the game. The object of the game is to win.
You draft a guy to be your franchise quarterback. You don't play Gardner Minshew.
What if Minshew's the franchise quarterback?
Minshew's perfect when he comes in and plays a couple games here and there. That's it. That's all he is. Stop it.
He just keeps the Ravens in Baltimore.
Actually, I don't know. I don't know if that was actually your question or not, Breech. How much truth do you actually put into that sentence, Minshew over?
They got a little grin peeking out on Breech's mouth. He doesn't really believe it.
I am if I was a head coach in the NFL and I have a quarterback who's winning games, And yes, I might have a rookie who will turn to a franchise quarterback at some point. I'm just going to ride the hot hand, especially with a rookie, because we don't know
Did
if
he
the
play
rookie's
great last
improve.
week? What were Minshew's numbers? Did the defense win that game, or did Minshew win the game?
Minshew was 19 to 23 for 171 yards and a touchdown against the Texans.
That's not a great game.
That's 10 completions, Pete. He came
and
off the bench.
Did he give him 2 points stepping out of the back of the end zone?
That was against the Ravens. I was talking about the Texans game when he got thrown in there, not knowing he was going to play.
Yeah, look, that's when you get thrown in there. Minshew's going to be good getting thrown in there. It's when people prepare for him that he has the problem. No, you don't play Minshew. Stop it.
Well, the Ravens got to prepare for him, and he threw for 227 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Is that a great game offensively?
The Jaguars would have taken it.
It's a manage the game.
Pete, is it true that you hate Gardner Minshew because you've never been able to grow facial hair?
No. I don't hate Gardner Minshew. I just don't think he's very good. I think he's a backup quarterback in the NFL.
A third round pick.
Every single time he plays a game, everybody goes, "Oh, he should be starting." No, he shouldn't. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he have like 9 straight losses before as a starter before he played the other day?
He's playing on that terrible team.
And real quick, I don't think Minshew should be the starter, like replace Anthony Richardson. I would just keep him in until he loses a game and then say, "Okay, Richardson, you're back. It's your team." I'm just riding the hot hand. That's it.
If he was throwing for 440 and 3 or 330 and 3, I could see your argument. There's no argument. He threw for 220. That's like nothing.
He's 27 to 44 too.
But Pete, that could just be following Breech's rule. That could just be a 1-game thing. If he loses next week, then it's Anthony Richardson's team. So it could be a short.
If Anthony Richards is ready to play this week, he plays.
I agree with that. Let me ask you about Jonathan Taylor, who is not yet out there. He should be available pretty soon. Zach Moss ran for 122, and it sort of supports your theory about paying these guys. What are you doing with Jonathan Taylor? How does he fit into the offense if he does at all?
Oh, if he comes back, you play him. He's a better back than Zach Moss. But
would you trade him if that's an opportunity?
Who's trading for him?
I don't know.
Who wants him? It's like before the season. Miami needs to go get Dalvin Cook. Oh my gosh, what are they going to do? Well, that would have been the dumbest thing ever.
I agree with that part.
You drafted the kid from A&M. However he changes the pronunciation of his name every week. What is it? It's A-Chan now, isn't it?
Achan.
I told us A-Chain at the combine.
It was it's what everybody said it was. He changed it, so it's Achan now.
Yeah, you wrote it's like Mike Stanton. He's like, hey, as it turns out, I'm really rich now, so I'm going to go back to being Giancarlo. I was worried it might hamper me going to the majors, so I went by Mike. Like I'm just going to be Giancarlo now. A-Chan ran for 4 touchdowns. He's like, hey, you know what? It's not A-Chain. So if you guys could fix that pronunciation, that'd be great. Thanks.
And then they're better off with him than they are with Dalvin Cook.
I agree.
Running backs are everywhere. Okay, here's another one. The Lions used a top 10 pick on Gibbs. Wasn't it 10 or was it?
I think it was 12.
Yeah. He was 12.
12.
It was 12.
Would they have been better off keeping DeAndre Swift?
Yes.
No, he was injured. That's why they got rid of him. That's why. I mean, that was the only thing. He couldn't stay healthy.
You drafted a running back at 12.
Yeah.
Bijan.
Is it a problem? I mean, it's not
top 10.
Bijan's a really good football player.
He did nothing last week. 0.
Gosh. You're the one who just said 3 weeks.
He's a 13th overall player, but like I always say, in 5 years he'll be complaining about his franchise tag, just like Saquon Barkley and the rest of them.
The Lions should have taken Christian Gonzalez at 12.
There you go.
Okay.
I mean, the Lions taking a cornerback is not crazy at all. I guarantee you had them taking Devin Witherspoon in like 75% of your mock drafts.
No, I'm laughing because the revisionist
position value.
Everybody thought Christian Gonzalez would be a good player.
I agree, but I mean, they went.
It's not history to say don't draft a running back at 12. Take the possible like stud cornerback. Like that's just a good move.
Position value matters, and there's more value at a corner position than there is of a running back. They're everywhere.
Well, I mean, the other side of that argument is how's Devin Witherspoon doing? He's not doing great, so you just don't know.
He was hurt.
It doesn't matter. He's not doing great. He wouldn't be.
He was hurt he missed the entire preseason basically.
How about you don't trade out of 6 and just take Jalen Carter? I mean, it's not that hard.
He's the best He's the best rookie right now.
They don't take knuckleheads though. So that's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I remember. Whatever the co-host of that. What's his name? The co-host of that podcast that you're on, Rick. his brother or something works for the Lions. He's like the janitor with the Lions or something. I can't remember. Anyway, moving along. No, Rick Spielman, co-host of the With the First Pick podcast with Ryan Wilson, a fantastic NFL draft podcast. He pointed, actually, when I was doing my mocks, I used Rick's comments on the show to inform my mock draft because he's like, you're like, Jalen Carter might be there for the Lions at 6. He was like, I wouldn't bank on them taking him at 6. Did he not? Well, he said that like on the air.
In hindsight, they should have taken him.
Well, they should have. I'm just saying, like Rick made it. I'm just saying, I'm pumping up the podcast here, man.
No, I'm laughing at Pete.
I love talking football with Rick, but two things about him that he won't do. He won't pick little guys, and he won't take guys that have a little bit of an edge in character.
And by the way, with the Jonathan Taylor thing, really quickly, if they beat the Rams this week, they're 3-1, and then they get the Titans versus the Titans and at the Jaguars, with the Jags coming back from 2 weeks in London. Like, roll Jonathan Taylor out there and play him. Because you could win those 2 division games, and all of a sudden you would be 5-1 if you beat the Rams, or even like 4-2, 4-3.
How healthy is he?
I think he's healthy after the 4 weeks off.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We don't know. We don't know what that injury was either, so we'll see. But I'm with you. If he's healthy, he plays.
Yep, I agree with that. I don't think they're going to find a trade partner for him. Okay, very quickly, we talked about the Bears. Or do you need to go, Pete?
In a second.
Okay. Broncos, Panthers, and Vikings. Which one of those teams? Because I think the Bears are the worst team in football pretty clearly. Negative. They have a worse point differential than the Broncos, who lost by 50 points on Sunday. Who's the next worst team in football?
Yes,
the Broncos.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say the Broncos.
Okay, that's weird because you actually have the Panthers ranked as the next worst team in football. But if you want to say the Broncos, that's
well, fine. I mean, I guess the Panthers. Is Bryce Young playing or not? If Bryce Young's playing, they're the worst team. If Andy Dalton's playing, they're not.
Ouch!
You're the worst. You're the worst.
Well, he's not. He's overwhelmed right now.
He's not overwhelmed.
Yes, he is.
Dude, the Seahawks made a compilation of Panthers offensive linemen's false starts on Sunday, and that was with Andy Dalton back there. I mean, Bryce Young is definitely overwhelmed. He has no time behind that line, which unfortunately is chock full of NC State players, and he has 0 weapons downfield. There's no one on that team.
The left tackle and the right guard are both NC State players. Don't draft those linemen.
There's no way there's no one on that roster that can get separation downfield.
I don't do this often, Pete, but I 100% defend and agree with Brinson. Brinson's actually learned the game and watched the tape. You've done neither.
I watch it every week. You're never going to give up. You're never going to stop defending the kid. You're like
MVP.
Rick Spielman gets paid. Rick Spielman gets paid to defend him. You don't.
I don't get anything. That's the worst part.
Is it? By the way, Spielman hates every little guy, every little receiver. Too little. Every little guy, too little. But he loved Bryce Young. He wasn't too little. Come on.
You're suggesting that Rick gets paid to defend Bryce Young?
That's Pete's go-to.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Breech Wilson, what thoughts on worst team in the NFL?
Breech, go ahead.
It's the Bears, so there's no thought.
Well, no, we know
that. One-word answer.
Yeah, other than the Bears.
Other than the Bears, bro.
Oh, other than the Bears, I think the Vikings at 29. I think the Vikings would beat the Raiders, the Jets, I think the Vikings are too low, even though they're 0-3. Are too high. They should be up higher in the rankings. I'd probably put the Broncos at 31.
Should the Vikings trade Kirk Cousins to the Jets for a 7th-round pick and just tank their faces off to go get Caleb Williams?
The Jets can't afford that.
Yeah. 7th-round pick?
No, not the pick, the money. That's a lot of money to put on your books. Here's the other thing. If you look at the Vikings and you look at what happened to them last week, it was vintage. That game was vintage from so many different standpoints. First, you had stupidity by Staley. What a moron. You had the dumb play, 4th and 1 from the 24.
The analytics said go for it, Pete.
No, I don't care what the analytics say. You punt the damn ball. They've scored 3 touchdowns the entire game. That was stupidity. But of course, Josh McDaniels it was even dumber. Terrible. Okay. Then you have, but maybe they knew in the back of their mind, maybe Staley knew that Kirk Cousins was going to somehow become Kirk Cousins again at the end of the game.
It wasn't his fault.
Wait, okay. When he's got his hand, they got 25 seconds left. He's no timeouts, and he's doing this, and the clock's running. He's looking around. What the hell is that? That's him. And they rushed the play. Of course it was his fault.
Just get him up to the line of scrimmage and spike the ball. And then you get 2 plays and you don't have to hurry up with that last play.
Correct, Breech. Instead it was,
By the way,
in his home stadium, by the way.
Yeah, that's even worse.
And then he's like, well, I called the exact same play that Kevin wanted to call. It was literally the same play. Who would have guessed that? It's like, not me.
But
I would guess
one
you're full
last
of it.
thing, because I do have to go in a second, but if you were the head coach of the Chargers and your job, because his job was probably on the line, would you go for a 4th and 1 from the
Well, that's funny. I thought he did it
swinging, baby.
I thought he pulled a Lovie Smith last season. Lovie said, "All right, we're going to throw everything against the wall and see what happens. If I'm going out, guns blazing." And it blew up in his face. But to your point, Kurt out the Chargers. And I'll say quickly, Pete, you mentioned the Raiders and Josh McDaniel. They are my worst team below the Bears solely because of that stupidity at the end of that game where they just try to kick field goals to death.
All right,
I don't understand the rationale behind
There is none.
None.
Yeah.
There's none. You still need the touchdown.
Yep. It's a terrible move. All right. Pete mentioned coaches on the hot seat. Brandon Staley on the hot seat. We're going to say goodbye to Pete. Don't hang up, Pete. You'll leave during the break. We will see you, pal. When we come back, we've got our live power rankings given to us by Pick Six listener. One just like you. Dominick Petrillo joins us and ranks coaches on the hot seat coming up next.
100% awesome.
We make this look good.
100% hilarious. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's so dope.
And you still haven't watched Ninja Turtles on Paramount Plus yet?
Y'all not as cool as I thought you would.
Oh, no. Hey, man. Listen, we were kidding.
Ninja Turtles is effortlessly cool and crushes for absolutely every age.
Jeez, Dad, you really went buck wild there.
Ninja Turtles, rated PG, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, welcome back to the Pick Six Podcast. Will Brinson, Ryan Wilson, John Breech, and now joined by longtime listener, Pick Six superfan, and general knower of ball, Dominick Petrillo. Dom, what's up, buddy?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Dom,
doing well,
how you doing, brother?
Doing
Good.
well.
How you doing, Ryan? Good to talk to you again. Will, you don't have to answer my email now.
I don't answer anybody's email.
He wasn't going to answer it anyway. Yeah. Seriously, I think my mom emailed me like 6 years ago, and I still haven't replied to her. She mentions it every Thanksgiving. So don't take it personally. Breech,
Will has never written back an email to me in my entire life.
He's like Geno Smith.
That's right, Breech. You and I have something in common too. You're a serial killer, and my mom actually unknowingly dated a guy who killed 41 women and was put to death in Florida.
What?
Oh my God!
That's
Was he drafted by the Packers?
Yeah, right.
I'm glad, Dom. I'm glad you could step right in from Pete Prisco's like, I love serial killers a lot, and you filled Pete's spot and actually filled it better. So good for you. You get to rank things as well. Let's start with let's do your coach power rankings. Coaches on the hot seat for drama. We'll start with 5 and work our way to the coach on the hottest seat. Who is your number 5 coach with the hottest butt/seat in the NFL?
Who is my number 5? I can't look at my list because, as you know, I'm blind.
You're correct. He is. I'll give you this. He coaches the Cowboys.
Oh, there you go, Mike McCarthy. Yeah, I just think he's on the hot seat because Jerry Jones is. I think he's just getting itchy. He may want to get Kellen Moore back from Los Angeles after they reshuffle their, coaching staff this offseason. I just think he really loves his homegrown guy, so he's going to want to get rid of, McCarthy as soon as possible and get his own guy in there. I think it's going to be Kellen Moore. I think he really loves the offense that Kellen Moore brought to the team the past couple of years, and he's going to go after him this season when Brandon Staley's gone.
So, Dom, the great thing is that both Debo and new producer Harry made it clear that we were going to tell you the rankings of your players, and Brinson just put you right on the spot.
No, I was told I wasn't supposed to know what they were. I was told I wasn't going to find out what they were ahead of time, so it didn't spoil the rankings. And so but look, I'll take the L there for
so let me reasons. Mike McCarthy, based on how things unfolded in week 3, and it always feels like you're just sort of teetering on the edge with getting the old Mike McCarthy back. And I feel like we saw glimpses of that. I asked you this on Sunday Night Breach. Is it more Mike McCarthy or more Dak? And you felt like it was more Mike McCarthy, especially with the sluggish nature in which they mounted that last drive that ended in the interception in the end zone. So I don't hate this at all. And number 4, just so you know, Dom, to refresh your memory, Mike Vrabel.
Well, real quick on Mike McCarthy, I just want to say with obviously got totally outcoached by a first-year coach, the Cardinals. But you look at the Cowboys' next 3 games, they play the Patriots. Not completely crazy that they would lose that. Then they play the 49ers. Then they play the Chargers. As Wilson would say, there's a path. There's a path. That Dallas is 2-4 going into their week 7 bye. And my God, that is going to be a crazy week in Dallas if that happens.
So, I mean, the thing about Mike McCarthy too is when you think about the hot seats, right? Like you have to take somebody off of the hot, like if you're going to, like somebody else has to be put on there, like in place of Mike McCarthy and sort of running through it. I mean, like we don't think Zach Taylor's on the hot seat, right, Breech?
What? What are you smoking?
I'm trying to find people who might replace Mike McCarthy in the top 5. I don't think Robert Saleh's on the hot seat because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. I think he's in the clear. Bill Belichick. I'm looking at 1 and 2 teams.
Bill Belichick. He said Bill Belichick.
Not on the hot seat. I'm trying to find. I mean, Sean Payton 0 and 3. Not on the hot seat.
I actually had Sean Payton number 6. It took me a while to figure out somebody to put at number 5. I just put Sean Payton at number 6 just because wouldn't it be funny that the Waltons gave him like what it is, whatever it is, $20 million a year, and then they fire him after a year. And then I also didn't put Ron Rivera on my list just because I think his hot seat is only because of the ownership change. So that's why I think he's going to be gone anyway.
Yeah, I think Rivera you could put on the list instead of McCarthy if you wanted to, just because but you're right, it is the ownership changes, the fact that Josh Harris, if they lose a bunch of games, is gonna make a change there. You just start looking through this list and like 0-3 Panthers, like that, you can't put Frank Reich on the hot seat now in his first year. I don't think 2-1 at Todd Bowles on the hot seat.
I think the only argument you could put at 5 and not, through 3 weeks, I'm not sure you would want to do it. But look, Mike McCarthy coaches a 2-1 team. We're talking about him on the hot seat. Is maybe Kevin Stefanski, because yes, the Browns are 2-1, but if they were to go out and lose this week against the Ravens, completely plausible. Lose the next game against the 49ers, completely plausible. And now you're 2-3, then things would flip pretty quickly in Cleveland. So I think you could make an argument if you wanted to put Stefanski at 5 instead of McCarthy.
So we've got Mike Vrabel at number 4. Don, walk us through that one. I sort of feel I think this is a tough list this early in the season, just because again, like 1 and 2, Mike Vrabel. To me, Mike Vrabel's probably safe, but I have a hard time finding somebody else that would replace him with a hotter seat.
To me, I actually had Mike Vrabel hotter, and then I know that a lot of people love him, so I moved him down a little bit. I've never been a fan of his coaching. I just think that it's been all Derrick Henry, and we see that now that Derrick Henry's starting to slip, that he can't do anything with the defense or the offense. I know they've had a lot of injuries and stuff. I just think that he's all talk and less substance. So I don't know. I've never been a big fan of Mike Vrabel as a head coach. I thought it was weird the way he got the job from Mike Mularkey after going to the playoffs, and Mularkey just got in a pissing match with the ownership and they decided to let him go, and they brought in Vrabel. So I know they like him there, the ownership. So that's why he has a lot of cachet there. But I've never been a big fan of his. And I just think his teams underperform for how good everybody thinks he is.
Breech here from Nashville. Go ahead.
Yeah. Defend.
I mean, I
defend
think
hot chicken, defend Mike Vrabel, Breech.
I think he overperforms. We're talking about a guy who has never been given a great roster. He's not somebody who has one of these upper echelon quarterbacks. And, it's not like Derrick Henry is willing them to victory in every single game. Certainly he's played a huge part of that, but you're talking about a coach who has 4 winning seasons and 5 full years with the Titans, obviously 1 and 2 this year, but the AFC South is wide open. It's just, they've never had the best roster in the NFL, even close. And this is a guy who led this team to a number 1 seed just 2 years ago. I mean, we're only 2 years removed from the Titans being the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. So I think Vrabel is, I don't think.
Are you worried? Are you worried with Vrabel Wilson that, let's say Ryan Tannehill last year of his contract, he's gone. All of a sudden you have Malik Willis and Will Levis, and that's all you got at the quarterback position. What happens with Tennessee then?
Well, I mean, they drafted Will Levis at the top of the 2nd round, and they were thinking about trading into the back of the 1st to get him. So they like him, or at least they did. He was hurt through preseason, so he didn't play a lot. And Malik Willis still looks pretty raw. He played a ton. I don't know what we have in Will Levis, but Breech has watched a lot of that Titans stuff. Ryan Tannehill sucks. Like, there's no other way about it. Like, he is not good. So I would imagine one of those guys is an upgrade on some level. Maybe you play like 2 quarterbacks. So I don't know what the plan is. But I don't think that's going to be.
They were spraying and praying during the preseason, man.
Yeah, but the preseason is. I mean, it was all Malik Willis. No one else played. Will played for a little bit against the Bears before he got hurt. But you're just sort of figuring.
You call him Will. You can't call you. I'm Brinson. But I can't be called Will. I mean,
I can call you Will if you want. But I think Breech's point is the one that I agree with. Like I like Mike Vrabel as the coach. I think he overachieves. I think they play some of the ugliest football in the NFL, but they find a way to get it done. So I feel like if Mike Vrabel gets fired, he'll be out of a job for about 10 minutes.
All right. Number 3, Dom. This one, and now we are getting to I think 4 and 5 are hard to fill out. But number 3, we're getting to the meat of the hot seat here.
Yes,
number 3, Matt Eberflus in Chicago. They are currently trending towards having possibly the number 1 and number 2 overall picks if both they and Carolina lose this weekend. Chicago has been terrible. Pete Prisco earlier in the show pointed out it is largely the coaching staff. What prompted you to have Eberflus at 3 and maybe not even higher?
Yeah, I just think the top 3 were pretty easy, and then 4 and 5 I had to stretch to even find names. Yep. I just think that he hasn't done anything with Fields. We know, obviously, listening to your show and listening to a bunch of other shows and just being able to listen to the games, you can hear that they used Justin Fields the wrong way for the first half of last year, and then when they finally decided to let him run the ball like he did at Ohio State, they started maybe not winning a lot of games, but they started performing, and that's what they needed to do. And then this year they said, this whole offseason, it's like they had amnesia, and they said, let's go back to what we were doing at the beginning of last year just to try and maybe they're trying to tank without actually tanking. They're trying to out-cardinal the Cardinals or something just so they can get the number 1 and number 2 pick. But it just seems like for some reason, he doesn't like what he has in Justin Fields. They have no wide receivers. Their offensive line is terrible now, especially when they have the right tackle just went on IR. They have nothing to look forward to. The running back room is terrible. The defense, I could probably play on that defense as like a spy or something. It's just, it's terrible what's going on there. And I just think that they brought him in for defense. He hasn't done anything with the defense. If anything, it's gotten worse since he's been there. The offense hasn't gotten any better. So I just think that the whole experiment with him is terrible. And who knows, maybe they'll go after Jim Harbaugh. Maybe he'll want to stay in the Midwest and go to Chicago, or possibly, Ryan Day, get one of these big hot college coaches or something like that, or go after again, like a Kellen Moore or something. When Brandon Staley gets fired from Los Angeles, when he's out of a job as Los Angeles coordinator.
Breech, let me put this theory to you. And it's not from lack of effort that the Bears haven't gotten better. They've added a ton of guys on both sides of the ball, and they are just truly terrible. But here's my theory, Breech. Unless you're getting someone who early returns is dynamic and can motivate, and the players buy in on the defensive side of the ball, like D'Amico Ryans, hiring someone like Matt Eberflus, the defensive coach, by and large, is not going to work out. And Dom noted that defense stinks. I mean, they're terrible. And we crushed Brandon Staley for being a defensive guy, and that team sucks on defense. But I think Matt Eberflus is taking it to another level. And he's not D'Amico Ryans or Mike Tomlin or even Bill Belichick in terms of being a defensive mastermind / motivator. Knowing that in today's NFL, you almost can't hire a defensive coach unless they're truly special. What do you think about that theory?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the truth. Unless you look at the 49ers out there producing head coaches on their defensive side of the ball, and it just felt like those were 2 guys who can motivate. And this is like the Bears are just waiting to get out of this. And it stinks to have to let go of a guy when he's only been there for 1 full season. He's not even 3 games into his second season with the team. But, man, it does not look like he was the right choice for the job. So this seems like a good spot here. I think
it's a good rule of thumb. Like if you fire somebody named Ryan and somebody named Matt, maybe don't, or like somebody named Ryan P and somebody named Matt, maybe don't go out and hire like another Ryan P and a Matt. One, I mean, it feels like you're just doing it just to be cheap on like scraping their names off the offices or like changing out like nameplates and everything. And 2, it's like very confusing for everybody involved. Like you hear routinely analysts will be like Ryan Pauls, it's like people pause because they don't remember. It's like Matt Eberflus. Maybe not.
It'd be like if we fired Will Brinson and hired Will Ferrell just because we wanted to have a Will to continue to host the podcast.
I actually posit that if you hired Ryan Reynolds and Matt Damon, this team would be better.
I can get down with that. All right, number 2, we go out to the desert, Las Vegas. Josh McDaniels. Now, I routinely, for some reason, defend Josh McDaniels' hot seat, suggesting, Dom, that he is not on the hot seat only because Mark Davis is unlikely to let him go just because Mark Davis doesn't want to deal with it. But you've got him at number 2 on your list.
Yeah, obviously Mark Davis is cheap. We know that. He gets his haircut at the haircutter. He likes to eat, at PF Chang, get those lettuce wraps and all that kind of stuff. But and obviously he's still paying like $100 million to John Gruden or whatever he's paying him. But I just think that McDaniel, he's one of these guys. He's got like the Rex Ryan syndrome where he's a great coordinator, in this case, offense coordinator. Rex Ryan was a great defense coordinator, but he's not a good offense coordinator or not a good head coach. Once he gets in that big chair, he can't oversee the whole thing. He's not the CEO. He's middle management. He's somebody that needs to be involved with his side of the ball with his players, and he can't oversee anything. And I just think that that's really been a detriment for him in Denver. It's been a detriment for him now in Las Vegas. And I just think it's going to keep him from ever getting another head coaching job. He'll probably either go back to the Patriots after this year of offensive coordinator, or he'll go somewhere else and Bill Belichick will get him a job as offense coordinator somewhere, maybe in Alabama to replace, Tim Reese or Tom Reese.
Hey, Breech, my only complaint about this is that maybe Josh McDaniels is too low.
Too low at number 2. I mean, look, it's crazy just that he has this security blanket of the fact that he was hired by Mark Davis, who I don't think would fire him before 3 seasons are up. So in a real person's world, like Dom's and the world we live in, this ranking makes a ton of sense. But because Davis just does not going to admit that he made a mistake, it's hard to see McDaniels getting dumped, I think, before the end of next season. And he would have to go 4-13 in each of the next 2 seasons.
I just also think, too, there's like this built-in aspect of being able to blame John Gruden and Mike Mayock, because it's like, and it's not hard. You're like, look at what these guys did in the draft. Look at the guy they did they sign Chandler Jones, or did McDaniels sign Chandler Jones?
I think McDaniels did.
McDaniels did. That's not great for him right now. But you look at the draft picks. It's like, look, dude, what they wasted like 13 first-round picks. What do you want us to do with this? Number 1, in your hearts, in your keyboards, on 4th downs, in Minnesota, maybe not in Minnesota, but certainly in Los Angeles, the hottest seat in the NFL. Might not even be on this list if the Vikings score a touchdown, because he might already be gone. Brandon Staley, Dom, checks in as your number 1 coach in terms of the power rankings on hot seat power rankings.
Yeah, he's doing so bad that Justin Herbert's coming out saying he wants him going. I mean, he's another one of these guys. He's a good defense coordinator. I don't even think he's a very good defense coordinator. I think that offense in Los Angeles was so good that it made his defense even look better, even with, he obviously had Aaron Donald and he had Jalen Ramsey, but he had nothing else there. He rode them to the number 1 overall defense and got him the job, in San Diego, Los Angeles. And I just think that he's overmatched. He totally reversed himself after being too aggressive in year 1. He just went the total opposite. And he needed to, he maybe needed to cut it back 50%, but he cut it back 1,000%. It did him no good. And it's really hurting the progression. I know I like Justin Herbert as well, but I just think that what he's doing on defense and on offense there is really hurting the, maturation of Justin Herbert. And he could be even better if he had a different coach, maybe an offensive coach that was leading that team. And I just think they're going to get somebody else in there that is offensive. Maybe again, I'll bring him up again, Kellen Moore. Maybe they'll raise him up after, obviously he seems to be working pretty good with Justin Herbert. Maybe they'll raise him up to head coach after they let go of Brandon Staley. I'm pretty sure, I'll guarantee 100% that if they do let Brandon Staley go during the year, that Moore will get the interim job.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy saw that right on the wall too, and he kicked Kellen Moore to the curb.
That's
so
right.
We'll see if Brandon follows suit. I want to be on the Brandon Staley bandwagon, but Breech, it's incredibly difficult given the way things have unfolded the last year and a half.
It is absolutely difficult. You look at what the Chargers have done this season. If Brandon Staley's not their coach and their coach is just a robot who picks the most optimal decisions, they would be 3-0. I mean, they lost to the Titans in overtime, a game they probably should have won. They lost to the Dolphins 36-34, which was one of the craziest games of week 1. It's already forgotten because of everything the Chargers have done and all this charging, and it's just unbelievable. And it almost happened again against the Vikings, going for it on 4th and 1 from his own 24 and failing. It is just wild that Staley just makes all these decisions that keep backfiring in his face. It's just unbelievable that keeps happening. He has horrible luck and also kind of a horrible feel of game flow, it seems like. So it's the thing is, though, like the Chargers are good, and I would like to see Staley succeed. I think he is it just feels like sometimes he's in over his head.
It feels like he's in over his head a lot of times. Like his job is to be good on defense, to make smart analytical decisions, and to manage like the game in a functional way. And he doesn't do any of those things. That is a problem. All right, Dom, this is excellent, man. Great work. Is there any parting shots you want to take at Ryan Wilson before we get out of here, or me?
Yeah, Ryan Wilson's great. Denzel's doing good over there. Him and I talk, pretty regularly, almost a couple times a week. So he's doing great.
Thank you, Dom. Appreciate
absolutely.
the support.
We appreciate it, Dom.
Dom, do you have any other fun serial killer facts?
Oh, okay.
Serial killer facts. Well, the murder that he was ultimately put to death for came to light after he was put to death, that it was impossible for him to have done it. He was actually fed information by a detective who was trying to close cases down there. He did kill at least 27 people, so he should have been put to death. But the one that he was actually convicted of the death penalty for, it was impossible for him to have done it.
I don't know if that's a fun fact. That's a morbid fact, but I like it.
Is this guy like pretty famous? I mean, should we like? I mean, I
you can look him up. His name is Eugene Stanos.
Okay,
he was born in New Jersey and killed in Delaware all the way down to Florida. He picked up hitchhikers and prostitutes and strangled them and killed them.
All right, Breech, you got your homework for the week, buddy. Dive on in on that. Dom, thank you for joining. This is a blast. Excellent work on your power rankings. There is at least a 50% chance that you will replace Pete Prisco in the next 3 weeks as the purveyor of the power rankings. I wouldn't be surprised by it at all. You're much more intelligent and much less grouchy. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for coming on. For Ryan, for Brinson, for Breech, for Dom, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys later.